Excuse me. We'll begin shortly. Can we sit a little more in front and allow the latecomers to take on the back seats so that they don't have to come all the way forward and, disrupt the talk of Father Derrick? Thank you.
Good morning, my dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to this talk. Before Father Derrick will begin his talk, may I give a not so brief introduction to allow more minutes for more people to come. In his Canticle of the Creatures, Saint Francis of Assisi sang these remarkable words. Unfortunately, I was not able to learn the tune, so I will just read it. He says, "Praise be you, my Lord, through our sister bodily death, from whom no one living can escape. Only someone who had learned to live completely in Christ could speak of death with such serenity, freedom, and even praise, no? praising the Lord for bodily sister death. So here we see that the Transitus of St. Francis is far more than an account of his final moments here on earth. It is the crowning witness of a life transformed by the gospel. So brothers and sisters, here in our parish, Santuario de San Antonio, as part of our journey through this Jubilee year of St. Francis, we are blessed to gather this morning to reflect more deeply on this beautiful mystery through today's talk, Spirited Away, Relooking at the Transitus of Francis. And to guide us in this reflection, we warmly welcome a Franciscan friar from Singapore. No? Imported pa, no, mga kapatid? Imported pa tayo, ha? Father DERICK Yap. Let us give him a warm round of applause. From Singapore, so this reflects the universality and the richness of our Franciscan vocation. No? Father DERICK Yap was born in 1973. He was baptized at the age of 16. He later studied chemical engineering at the National University of Singapore. A reminder that God's call comes to each person according to his own time and often unfolds along paths we ourselves could never have imagined. And then Father DERICK, he was not a father then, he entered the order of the Friars Minor as a postulant in 2002. He made his solemn profession on the feast of Saint Anthony, our patron, no? In 2008, and was ordained to the priesthood in 2010. No? And then from 2016 to 2019, he pursued further studies in dogmatic theology and Franciscan formation at the Pontifical University of Antonianum in Rome. It was during those years that I and Father Judy had the joy of knowing Father DERICK personally as we were studying there. I did not live with them. Father DERICK and Father Judy lived together at the Collegio Pontificio of Antonianum, but I lived somewhere else, Trastevere, away from them. But it was at that time that we were able to journey together, and I came to appreciate not only his academic dedication, but also his warm fraternal spirit, thoughtful insights, and deep love for our Franciscan vocation. So I had to invite him to come here. And in October 2019, he was elected Custos of the Franciscan Custody of Singapore. So he's the head now of the Franciscans in Singapore and Malaysia, a ministry of leadership and service that he continues to carry out with generosity and fidelity. And he also leads the program of forming the formators. No? He is an expert in formation. So he leads the program here in Asia for the Franciscans of forming the formators. So they had a series of classes and courses right now here in Manila. So today, Father DERICK will help us revisit the Transitus of our Seraphic Father, not simply as an event to remember, but as an invitation to rediscover what it means to live the gospel with such fidelity that, like St. Francis, our whole life becomes a hymn of praise to God. So, dear brothers and sisters, without further ado, let us welcome with warm applause a Franciscan, Father DERICK Yap.
Thank Thanks, Adam. The way he described me, I didn't recognize myself. So thanks, Adam, for the very warm welcome, and thank you for your heart, for being here. And I think it is the desire of just desiring to be together and just to know that little bit more actually puts us already in the grace of God. And Adam was saying that the Transitus, which means the death or the passing of St. Francis, is that crowning of his life. What that means is how we live is how we die. How we die is how we live. If we expect to let go at the final letting go, but right now we can't let go, then how to let go when we have to let go? Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, I think we're of that age that we can understand this. You tell this to teenagers, they're like, what let go, what let go? They will sing, let it go, right? And yes, and I think it's about freeing the heart. But not just freeing the heart anyhow, but freeing our hearts for someone. And for St. Francis, it was to free the heart for God and God alone. So this morning, it's relooking, but why I use the word we'll take a look afterwards. Let's start with a prayer. And we have a new Pope. Okay, not so new anymore. But interestingly, we thought that Pope Francis was very Franciscan, even though he was a Jesuit. That's why we say there was salvation. And then we have a new Pope who is Augustinian. And yet he followed the legacy of Pope Francis and declared this year the Jubilee year of St. Francis. And he wrote this beautiful prayer for the Jubilee. So shall we take this as our opening prayer? In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Together, St. Francis, our brother, you who 800 years ago went to meet Sister Death as a man at peace, intercede for us before the Lord. You recognized true peace in the crucifix of San Damiano. Teach us to seek in him the source of all reconciliation that breaks down every wall. You who, unarmed, crossed the lines of war and misunderstanding, give us the courage to build bridges where the world raises up boundaries. In this time, afflicted by conflict and division, intercede for us so that we may become peacemakers, unarmed and disarming witnesses of the peace that comes from Christ. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Beautiful words, unarmed and disarming. So he doesn't take up arms or weapons, and he disarms. That means whoever is holding on to weapons, he challenges them, he invites them to put the weapons down. That is the power of the love of St. Francis. And today we will journey with him and to see how we too can be unarmed and disarming. So today's program, if I'm talking too fast, just raise your hands and let me know, okay? Because in Singapore, you know that we talk very fast, right? Yes. Because if I'm talking normally, it'll be talking like this, right? Can you understand? Not really, yes. So I'm slowing down. So we're going to start with session 1, and then we go for a break at 10:30, so it'll be about an hour. Then we come back for our second session for an hour, and then at 12, we can have some questions if you'd like to ask something or comment on something, right? So it's a simple program. So I gave Adam my CV already, and so we don't have to go through all that again. But yes, I was 2 weeks here in Manila for the formation of formators. So Judima and I, we are working together. Judima is, you know, that he's now the vicar provincial. He's also the secretary of formation for your province here, and also the East Asia Conference secretary of formation. So I'm the South Asia Conference president, so we work very closely together on formation matters. Because when you get good formators, you will get good friars. And then when we get good friars, we get happy parishioners, right? Yes. And so we all believe in formation. Because especially for ongoing formation. Because when our friars know how to journey with each other in the Lord, we become more and more full in God's love. And then when we become more and more full, everyone around us will be full as well. But when we are empty, then we keep grasping, and sometimes we don't know what we are grasping at. Right? And which is what the talk today is about. Because my life is a bit mad. Like I'm 2 weeks in Manila. Tonight I fly with Judima to Jakarta for our ministers meeting for Asia for 1 week. So this year I have 23 trips out of Singapore. So I'm perpetually away. And I have to find ways to ground and center myself. I wonder, how do you do your grounding or centering? Do you have time for that? Besides morning mass, do you have time to sit in quiet and solitude and to enjoy Jesus? So for me, I enjoy reading, singing, which you will find out later, dancing, you will not find out at all. And calligraphy. I'm picking up my Chinese calligraphy again because I find that when I'm writing with my brush and my ink, for that 2 hours, I am just there. And in Chinese calligraphy, breathing is also very important. Sometimes in one breath, we try to write the word. If I breathe halfway, it will blotch. If I get distracted and think, what am I going to have for lunch? And I stay too long, it will make a blotch as well. So it is very sensitive, I think, to the heart. And my teacher tells me, from the character, you can tell the character of the person writing it. Whether the person is nervous, scared, or in control, strong, or what. It's very interesting. Just from the handwriting alone, you can find out character and how you are. And I think that's where in life we are trying to walk that journey to be in God, because that's the most important thing, yeah? Grounded in God. And so we begin with a song. This song, the Pope came to Singapore 2 years ago, Pope Francis, and I was part of the committee. After Mass, we had a 1 hour of performance where we sang and danced. So I have a composer. I say that we have a mutually exclusive relationship because he only writes for me and I only sing his songs, right? And for the papal visit, he wanted a song that would actually touch lives. And he was very inspired, my composer, with something Pope Francis wrote in his first encyclical called Evangelii Gaudium, thank you. This is old age, yes. The joy of the gospel. And in that encyclical, Pope Francis said that we turn away from God 1,000 times, but God comes after us in 1,000 ways to connect with us. How many times has God encountered you? We're all different, right? Some of us encounter God through prayer, through reading, through pilgrimages, through nature, sometimes through crisis, sometimes through our own illness or our own difficulty or someone else's difficulty. we feel God. So God comes to us in so many ways. And so my composer wrote this, and then we decided to do a music video. And this music video talks about the fragility of relationships. Because in Singapore now, we have no time for anything. No time for self, no time for our beloved, no time from God. So we're running everywhere, but running nowhere. And so relationships always suffer. Between spouses, parent and child, we neglect elders, we don't even know who we are, our self-image. And in this music video, it covers everything, right? So we start with this music video, and I hope it speaks to you as well.
Things haven't been easy for me the past few years.
I'm not giving up, David. I'm facing reality. We've tried everything. It's just not working out for us.
Just gonna walk away from everything?
I'm not walking away. I'm moving on. Separately. You don't have to worry about William. I'm sure we'll be able to figure something out.
Help!
Dad! William, go to your room. We'll help Grandpa. Go.
William, go! Yeah.
Projected a 15% increase in lead conversation. Everything's just going great.
I think I'll be a great asset to your company.
Yeah, I think you're overqualified, but if there is an opening, you'll let me know, right?
I don't know, am I getting this right? Sometimes it feels like I'm losing my mind. This life I know doesn't lead to anywhere. Oh Lord, are you listening? Are you there?
I don't need to hear you calling to know the way you feel. I don't need to see you falling to know your wounds are real. I have made you by design, a miracle of mine. I'm with you in 1,000 ways, but have you seen the signs? I know you're fighting to get through every day. You may never know why I made you this way. There's a reason for your experience in this world. The story brings strength to others. I've heard you calling, seen you falling. I've watched you from above, like the passion of my son, who was crucified for love. And now you have his light, my promise for all time. I will hold thousand ways to return to my embrace.
So hope you enjoyed that. It's available on YouTube. Just type 1,000 Ways Franciscan Friars. You'll find this video. All our music are also on Spotify, Apple Music, and on YouTube, right? We've done 2 albums already. Yeah. Wait a minute. Let me just go to the next slide. Okay. So back to the title, Spirited Away. Have you all watched this movie called Spirited Away? Do you all know this movie? Okay. Maybe you all will know. Have you seen this, Totoro? Okay. If you go to Japan, it is very, very big in Japan. I first gave this talk in Japan, in Roppongi. You know, we have a Franciscan Chapel Center in Roppongi. And this year for Palm Sunday, the day before, I gave the same talk to them. So everyone in Japan is crazy about Studio Ghibli. They do Totoro and also Spirited Away. This movie, Spirited Away, won the Oscars in 2003. It's the first non-English animated feature to win an Oscar, right? And Studio Ghibli always talks about social commentaries. Main character is this little girl called Chihiro. I should bring Father Albert here because he is pseudo-Japanese, right? Yeah. You see his dressing. He dresses like a Japanese. I mean, outside the habit. So Chihiro is this little girl, and right now she's talking to this character. Can you see what the character is wearing? A mask. He's called No Face. And this is a social commentary, which means that it's also talking about our society. We are always, or some of us, are so used to wearing a mask, we don't know who we are anymore, right? Do you know who you are? Okay, good. Because I'm still figuring out, yes. So Chihiro, in Chinese, so for those of you who read kanji or Chinese characters, in Mandarin this is read as Tian Xun, which means Tian means 1,000, Xun means searchings. So in her name, it means that she is searching. Like 1,000 ways, we're searching for something. What is she searching for? In this movie, what happened was, with her parents, they went into a deserted temple and they saw food dedicated to the gods, and the parents were hungry and so went to eat. Normally you don't touch food dedicated to the gods. And so they turned into pigs because they were disrespectful. But it shows that we are always greedy and hungry. We don't think what we are eating, and we just consume and consume and we consume and we consume. So they turned into pigs. Her task is to work in a bathhouse and then at the end to identify correctly her parents among a group of pigs. If she can correctly recognize her parents, the parents will come back to human form again. But to recognize the parents, she first needs to recognize herself. So this is actually a movie about self-identity. And in this picture here, she's seated next to No Face, talking about identity. And this lady is called Yubaba. And Yubaba is the owner of the bathhouse. And how she controls everyone working in her bathhouse is to change their names. Names are our identity, right? When someone changes, like when God changes name in Bible, right, Adam, it means that it's a change of identity, a change of mission, right? Simon becomes Peter, the rock. So Yubaba changed her name by dropping this word and just calling her Sen. And for her to keep remembering her own name, she has to keep repeating it every day. Who am I? Who am I? I am Chihiro. I'm Chihiro. I'm Chihiro. To have a sense of self. Because when we encounter God, who is encountering God? You. But who are you? Who am I? Am I asking very deep questions? Okay, it's going to be like that for the whole morning, okay? Welcome to my world. So we're going to look, and I'm inviting us to re-look, because re means again. And today is going to feel like a day of recollection. Recollection is a very important word, especially for Spanish Franciscans. Do you remember who brought the Franciscans here? And one of the most famous is San Pedro Bautista. Apparently, he was influenced by the spirituality of a saint called, a writer called Francisco de Osuna. Have you heard of Francisco de Osuna? He wrote the third spiritual alphabet, which a very famous saint read. And that's Saint Teresa of Avila. Saint Teresa of Avila, when she was writing the section on recollection, she consulted Francisco de Osuna, a Franciscan Spanish. She consulted Peter of Alcantara, her own spiritual director, also a Franciscan. And she also consulted Bernardino de Laredo, also a Spanish Franciscan, on recollection. So when she was writing her chapter on recollection, she consulted these three Spanish Franciscans. So when San Pedro Bautista, because the book that Francisco de Osuna wrote was in 1527, it was published then, which means that Pedro Bautista would have read it because he came here in 1584. So he was also influenced by Francisco de Osuna. Because recollecting, it's about collecting again. Collect what? Do you find yourself very distracted some of the times? Maybe not like your grandchildren or your children. You know, now we have so many devices, and when we open up our phones, our apps are all over the place, and then we swipe, and then we go from, I know you still use a lot of Facebook, but we go to from Instagram, we go to TikTok, we go to Snapchat, everything. Then we go to Messenger, we go to WhatsApp, we got Telegram, and then we go to our Google and everything, and we're on our emails, and perpetually we have multiple things happening. And then when we come to prayer, are you recollected? So recollection is the collecting of your senses and reorienting to God. And it is so difficult that Francisco de Osuna wrote this book called The Third Spiritual Alphabet. In the English edition, it is 608 pages. Imagine. I'm halfway through the book. And it talks about everything. It even talks about meekness. It even talks about tears. Some of you, do you all cry when you are in a spiritual... I cry very easily, right? Even when I'm recording songs, they have a crying chair for me. So because when I'm recording songs, sometimes the spirit hits and I just rush out of the studio crying. So they put a piano chair with tissue paper. I cry rather easily. But it is activating the heart, the soul. Because we are called to recollect and bring it to God and God alone. So today we're going to practice a bit of silence and recollecting. So at some points, I'll invite us for a 3-minute silence. And then if we are distracted, so be it. As we are. Maybe we are telling ourselves what is bothering us at the moment. Yeah? And it's okay, right? So this year, being the Transitus of Francis, the friars, the conventual friars in St. Francis Basilica in Assisi decided to display the bones of Assisi. Were you all there? Oh, do you go to see the bones? Yeah. I was there this year in March. So these are the bodily remains of St. Francis. And it's kept in a plastic case, but they practically had 600,000 bookings over 1 month. And they just shuffled us like sheep. We just went and we just saw like 15 seconds and then we were gone already. Yeah. Thank goodness, being Singaporean, we're very kiasu, meaning we're very afraid of losing. We made 2 bookings, right? So I went twice. Yes. But it is amazing to see the bones of Francis. Why do we have this morbid desire to see bones? Because sometimes when we look at saints, we're like, are they real? It sounds like some fairy tale story of someone from another world. But seeing the bones really remind us that Francis was an ordinary man. Just like you, just like me. But he allowed God to dream in him and through him. And that's why he could do what he did, because he was fully in God and God was fully in him. But that means that he had to die to himself every now and then. That's why when Adam was saying, the Transitus is the crowning of his life, that means before he died, he had done many deaths throughout his life. So we're going to talk about a few of the episodes, and we're going to try to relate our own life in his life. Because if Francis can do it, so can we. Do you believe you can do it? Haha, yes, we can. Because this is the same God that loves Francis, the same God that empowered Francis. This is the same God that loves you, that empowers you, that calls you here this morning. And we have to believe that and to claim this God and to claim this love. When I do pilgrimages to Italy, so practically every year I do a pilgrimage to Assisi, and I met one of my pilgrims here from Singapore this morning at Mass. Couldn't believe it. In my pilgrimage, yes, there's a lot of eating, but there's a lot of caves. Why? Because I find that in Singapore, we don't know how to keep silent and have solitude. And many people thought that Francis was always hugging trees, hugging wolves, hugging lepers. But he could be so powerful in this hugging. It's because he spent a lot of time in caves. Do you know how many times he goes into caves every year? 3 to 5 times every year. Every time he goes into a cave, he takes 40 days. If your maths is as good as mine, 3 to 5 times a year, that means it's between 120 days to 200 days in caves. Ayo, where is the Shopee? Where is the Lazada? Where's going to eat at this Michelin star place or shopping here? But for Francis, he enters into caves. Where is he going? Entering the cave of his heart. Who is in the cave of his heart? God. And he especially loves. Okay, so this place is my favorite place in Assisi. Have you all been to Assisi? Yes. Have you all been to Eremo delle Carceri? Above Assisi, Mount Subasio. If you take a taxi, it is 10-15 minutes. But if you walk up there, beautiful walk, depending on how strong your legs are, you can do 45 minutes or you can do 2 hours, right? Yeah. Because the view is so beautiful. Carceri means prison, right? Like incarcerated. This is Brother Leo's cave. So Francis and his early companions all had their own caves, and then at lunchtime they would gather, at prayer time they would gather, but otherwise they were in their own caves. This is Narni, where we get Narnia. You know the book Narnia? So C.S. Lewis, he saw the landscape of Umbria and he loved it, and he said, my next book, the landscape will be here, and he called the book Narnia after Narni. St. Francis also went to Narni and he found a cave there. Can you see this cave? You think caves are normally like circular, round, but Francis loves caves like this, like a slit in the rock face. What does it look like? He says it looks like the side wound of Christ. So when he enters a cave that looks like this, he's entering the side of Christ. And when you enter into the side of Christ, you go in, go in, go in, go in, go in. What do you encounter? The heart of Jesus. So we enter into the cave of our hearts to get nearer to the heart of Jesus. And that's why Francis was so powerful in his words, in his preaching, and in his works, in his miracles. Because he knew the heart of Jesus. But you need to die to yourself to spend 40 days like that in a cave, 3 to 5 times a year. Till today, they have about 40 over of these caves of St. Francis, and they've made hermitages out of them. So my pilgrimage is to go from cave to cave, cave to cave, cave to cave. And then I try to let the pilgrims have 1 hour of quiet every day at a place. Whether you want to spend time in the church, whether you want to walk in the woods, or you want to play with a cat that's over there. There's no shopping because the gift shops are very small. And just to confront yourself. Have you watched K-pop Demon Hunters? The no more hiding, now I'm shining, like I'm born to be. It's like almost to embrace our inner demons and to accept our woundedness and brokenness, and then we can really shine, right? So, if you feel like it, I see that some of you have journals, so journal as you see fit, because this is about you and how God wants to reveal God's self to you in 1,000 ways. The first thing is, where are you now? You know, when we do GPS, we have to find out our destination, where we want to go. But first, you have to do your location. Because if your location is wrong, when you punch in the route will also be wrong. So where are you now? What is holding your heart at the moment? What is affecting you? Is it the war or wars? Or is it someone? Someone that you can't let go? Someone who has hurt you? Or is it a painful past that has happened? Someone tragically taken away from you or something? Or is it an internal struggle? You don't know where you're going, you don't know what to do. Or do you just feel fragmented? Because now we're pulled in 1,000 places, right? Sometimes we've got parents to worry about. we've got spouse to worry about, we've got children to worry about, business to worry about, politics, war, fuel prices, everything. And then we don't know where we are. And then we feel fragmented. Where are you now? Yeah? Let's start with you. You know how Pope Francis got his name? Do you remember? When Pope Francis, during his election, at that round that he got 2/3 majority, the cardinal next to Pope Francis was this cardinal here, Claudio Humes, who was also the cardinal of our Antonianum Basilica. So we have seen him. So when he was elected, Cardinal Humes hugged Pope Francis and whispered in his ear, and he said, "Don't forget the poor." And then Pope Francis in his mind was thinking, "Don't forget the poor, don't forget the poor, don't forget the poor." And then when they asked him, "What name do you call yourself?" And he says, "Francis," after Francis of Assisi. That's why he's always about the poor. But who is the poor? And I always ask that in Singapore. You've been to Singapore? Besides eating, yes, and for medical. I know a lot of Filipinos go to Singapore for checkups, yes. You cannot find poor in Singapore. There are no beggars. There are no like rough sleepers. There are actually, but you can't see them. The government has swept them away and put them in an institution. So I'm always inviting our friars to look out for the new poor. Who are the new poor? There is this sociologist and philosopher called Zygmunt Bauman who talks about liquid modernity. The modern world right now is so liquid because there's no form. Some even say that we're now vapor modernity. At least liquid, we can touch liquid. But now it is so shifting that we don't know what we're holding on to. We can't hold on to anything now, right? And in our Pope, he wrote Dilexit Nos, right? That he has loved us, one of the last few encyclicals that Pope Francis wrote. He talks about our liquid world. And he says that we are serial consumers. Cereal is not Cocoa Pops or cornflakes. Cereal means that we keep consuming. When we go into Shopee, we guys just buy and buy and buy. We don't even know what we're buying. We just buy, right? And we just go from thing to thing, and we live from day to day in a hectic pace and bombarded by technology. So much bombarded that Pope Leo now has to write an encyclical on AI to address the craziness that is happening now, right? And because we are all over the place, Pope Francis says that now we lack patience to engage in interior processing. We have no patience to look inside for us to journey with our own selves. He says we risk losing our center. We are not grounded, we are not anchored, we are not centered. That's why I say I do Chinese calligraphy to keep me centered, right? And we find ourselves confused and torn apart, fragmented. We are bereft of an inner principle because we don't know who we are, what we stand for. And there's no room left for the heart. No room left for the heart. Where is our heart? That's why Francis always entered the caves of our own hearts, right? To reclaim that back. So, this year we Chinese celebrate the year of the fire horse. And horses are always galloping. And I like this imagery that we're galloping and we're galloping and we're galloping. But where are we going? Can we say that we're galloping upward? That we're galloping inward? And we're galloping outward? That means to God, to self, and to others. Remember what is the greatest commandment? Jesus says, love God, love neighbor as yourself. The inward journey. So is this 3 separate journeys, or is this one and the same journey? Right? And so I'm going to take you for a journey with Francis, with the seraph. Where did Francis meet the seraph? On Mount Laverna. Have you been to Singapore's Mount Alvernia Hospital? Singapore, we have a famous hospital run by the Franciscan sisters called Mount Alvernia. It's a maternity hospital, right? Yeah. And Mount Alvernia or Laverna is where St. Francis received the stigmata. 1224, he received the stigmata when he encountered the seraph. What is a seraph? Seraph in Hebrew means the burning one. Burning with what? Do you know how many choirs are there? Choirs of angels. I mean, not choirs. After you're thinking your church choir. How many choirs of angels are there? According to Pseudo-Dionysius, there are 9 choirs. The lowest choir of angels are the angels. Thank you. Because angels are the messengers. The next level are the archangels, where they get more important messages. And then you have your principalities, throne, dominations, powers, cherubim, and then the highest choir of angel is the seraphim. Im is plural. 1 seraph, many seraphim. Am I right? The Hebrew expert is there. Yes, I better not talk rubbish. So the highest choir of angel is the seraph. Their only duty is to adore God, to worship God. Adoration is the technical word for worship. It is not for you to adore K-pop stars, okay? Or your K-pop oppas and everything. This adoration is worship of God. And when we adore God, we love God so much so that we burn with love. And that's why the seraph is represented by fire, the burning one. So, how come Francis had this stigmata? Francis, before going up the mountain, asked this question. Or on the mountain, he asked, "Who are you, O God, and who am I?" This is the year 1224. What year did Francis die? 1226. That's why this year was celebrating 800 years, right? So Francis was born in 1182. Which means that how old was he here? 42 years old. And for many, they already regarded Francis as a saint. Imagine like a saint still asking the question, "Who are you, O God, and who am I?" At age 42, what does that mean? It means the mystery of God, the mystery of self is so deep that we need to keep plumbing the depths of these 2 mysteries, which is also the same mystery, right? And he found that he can be crucified love. This seraph that appeared to him, when it appeared, it was the crucified one appearing as a seraph. And he was very confused. He was like, why the crucified one, and yet as a burning seraph? What does the seraph represent? Love. So this crucifixion is actually love. And then after the vision he had, he started to see wounds on his hands and feet. And then he realized that I can be also crucified love. I can be the sacrificial love for others. And that is the self-discovery. So be careful if you start asking today, "Who are you, O God, and who am I?" You might get the stigmata. But he also asked for 2 graces before he went up the mountain. He said before he went up the mountain, he said, "Lord, let me experience the pain and suffering that you experienced while up on the cross." It's a crazy request, right? to feel the pain. Then he asked for a second grace. He said, let me experience the love that brought you up on the cross. I think Francis knew that pain and suffering and love are sometimes two sides of the same coin. Like childbirth. I've never given birth to a child before, but my mother always reminds me that the labor pains and the pain of childbirth is excruciating. This was the days before epidural, right? Yeah. But she said when I was born, she saw me and her heart was filled with joy. And I think right now, in our act of loving our family members, very often in our love, we also feel a lot of pain and suffering. Why is it always so painful to love? This is the mystery of life. This is the mystery of love. And I think once we embrace it and recognize it, we can actually thrive in it somehow. So I invite you to listen to another song, also written by my composer, on this theme of who are you, O God, and who am I? And then we go into silence, okay? I will guide you. First, the song.
There is a kind of love that gives but not receive, a sacrificial love that can take away the life of a man who was free from sin. There is a kind of love that is given from our Father. He gave His only Son to die upon the cross for those who nailed Him there. Who are you, O God? And who am I that you should give your life for the sins that are mine and bring salvation to the world? Who are you, O God? And who am I that I should deserve the wonders of your love? Who are you, O God, and who am I? I only ask of you, my Lord, to let me feel the pain you suffered in your passion, and let me feel the love that made you gladly take it all. I saw a burning love, a seraph from heaven. Beneath the angel's wings was a man whose hands and feet were fastened to a cross. Who are you, O God? And who am I that you should give your life for the sins that are mine and bring salvation to the world? Who are you, O God? I should deserve the wonders of your love. Who are you, O God, and who am I? Then I saw the wounds appear on my hands and feet and my side, and I know, who am I?
It's also on YouTube, yes. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. So my composer knows my heart, so he writes songs. So this is actually also the place where we do the recording. It's a home studio. Yeah. This was during COVID. So COVID, I had a lot of time, yes, to produce music. So, question for reflection. So now we go into some time of quiet. So Francis asks, who are you, O God, and who am I? Is this your question as well? So, what question do you want to ask God? And your journey, hopefully this question revolves around your journey within and into God. One of our famous Franciscans called Saint Bonaventure, he also went up to Mount Alvernia. For Saint Bonaventure, the image of Francis is the stigmatized Francis. He was like, wow, what happened on this mountain? Then when he became the general, the big boss of the Franciscans, in 1257, he said, I will go up on this mountain, and he went up on 1259 to Mount Laverna, and he also spent 40 days, and he went to a cave just near the cave of Francis, and at the end of this time, he wrote The Soul's Journey into God, his most famous mystical work. If you go to Mount Alvernia this time, so for my pilgrimage, whenever I bring pilgrims there for the 3 o'clock procession, there's a non-stop, uninterrupted procession from the Basilica on Mount Laverna to the spot where Francis had his stigmata, the Chapel of the Stigmata. They do this procession every day at 3 p.m. And I bring my pilgrims there for the 3 p.m. and then they said, Father, we need to stay one night. So in 2024, I decided to stay one night. And then the pilgrim said, Father, not enough, we need to stay another night. So in 2025, we stayed 2 nights. Guess what? Father, not enough. I think they felt the depth of connection with God. But remember, I've already trained them in all the caves before, that slowly, they appreciated quiet, deep connection. That's why on Mount Laverna, nothing to do. There was nothing to do on Mount Laverna. It's not very big. And it was beautiful because every corner I see, oh, that one journaling, oh, that one crying, that one deep in prayer, that one walking in the forest, because we also did a forest walk as well. So I think a lot of us are screaming for deep connection with self, with God. And so there's a journey within. But it's within to find God. Like Teresa of Avila, the interior castle, the 7 mansions, where is God? God is in the 7th mansion, right in the middle, right? But we have to pass through all these mansions of purification, of mini deaths, mini letting goes. We can let go and finally let God, right? And the thing is, are you ready for the answer? Francis' answer came in the stigmata. And he was still asking, what is the meaning? Because sometimes we want the answer, but are we ready for it? And sometimes it's okay. We receive whatever the answer is, the revelation, and we can continue to process it and let God reveal it in a deeper way. And that's why sometimes we need spiritual directors, right? So, okay. Let's do a 3-minute quiet time, okay? You can pick one question or anything in your heart, or just to keep silence and just concentrate on your breathing and remember to recollect and to remember who is in front of us. God is in front of us and within us, okay? My timer for 3 minutes. Let's take this time of connecting with God together. Okay. How was the 3 minutes? Too slow? Too fast? Were you distracted? Is the mind still, or is it all over the place? However it was, it's okay. It's just telling ourselves where we are, right? And where we can go, or want to go, right? So we'll go for a break right now, and then we'll come back and we'll look at more episodes and more quiet time as well. Yeah, to relate to our own lives, Francis's, some of his episodes. Right now it's 10:50. We take 20 minutes. We come back 11:10. All right? Thank you. See you.
We have some snacks over here. We have some water and we have some juices, and then we have asado siopaw, and we also have adobo rolls over there. So please help yourself. There's plenty. Nothing sweet. Ah, okay. I thought you said, no, the only sweet.
All right, in the interest of time, let's come together. But I feel inspired to sing something at the moment. Let me see. Okay, I'll sing my favorite song right now. Let's see whether this one is it.
And help you find.
Wait. This one not. Okay. For you, God. All right, so while we wait for the rest to come back, let me sing this song, if I can get it to work. Uh-oh. Eh? Where is my lyric? Oh? Okay, never mind. Let's come back to Spirited Away. Ito. Hi. All right, hope you had a good break. I heard some of you have gone back to Lavernus spiritually, and you all enjoy your pilgrimage to Assisi. So let's come back to Francis. And remember that we're talking about the Transitus, about our passing, and how right now we can have our little letting goes, all right? But one of the things we need to let go is actually sin. But what is sin? And in the Testament, when do you write your testament? We only write our testament when we're going to die. So this is the testament of St. Francis, which means that this was just before he died. He is recounting all the most important episodes in his life, right? And he says, when I was still in sin, it seemed bitter for me to see lepers. Because when someone gets leprosy, during the time of Jesus and during the time of Francis, what happens? You're given the ritual of death, you're sent out outside the walls, and you go and live among the other lepers, and then go and die, right? And ironically or beautifully, Francis was led to them. But before that, he said it was bitter to see lepers because he was very vain, just like me, right? This I feel very attracted to Francis, and I resonate because he was so vain. He loves clothes and everything. So if you're so vain, you don't want to catch leprosy, yeah? Because it's very disfiguring. So when he talks about sin, what actually is sin? Sin can be seen as not focusing on God, that we're always focusing on self. Some call it the unholy trinity, me, myself, and I, right? And we become self-focused, self-centered, self-worship. And is this your idea of sin? Because very often we are caught up in the act, whether we've been or say, oh, I've scolded this person, I've taken this, So we have all those examination of conscience, but at the end of the day, what is it really touching? It's really touching, what do I want and what am I focused about? That should be the real thing. Not sometimes about, I take too much alcohol, I gamble, because these are just expressions of what is empty inside. And we're going after things that we think will keep us safe, will keep us soothed. But we realize that it will never soothe us. We can ask alcoholics, we can ask drug addicts. The more they take, or sex addicts, the more they take, the more empty they feel. That's why they need to keep going back, right? Nothing satisfies because there is that deep wound that can't be healed except by God, right? But unfortunately, in our life, we always keep looking for these things that are outside of us, and then we get lost. And so what is your idea of sin? Is it just in the outward behavior? Or is it really something deep within us that it could be a wound or a difficulty? And how do we embrace this, right? So where are you in this self-absorption? And I think how we can do this is 24 hours in a day. How much time do we think about ourselves? That's how I do my own examination of conscience. I look at myself and I see, oh, I keep thinking about my own work, whether this is done properly, or how this person has hurt me, no, didn't respect me, all that. Is it about me? And I think sometimes when we track how our time has been, we can also see how much self-absorption I have. Because I keep thinking about, oh, what can I do for this talk so that this one, what does that person need? Or what does this group need? So sometimes when I prepare a talk, I sometimes have to pray and think and discern, what is the group looking for? Or Lord, what is it that you want me to say to these people? So is it about God? Or is it about me? Is it about the people receiving it? Or is it about me? So I think these are the questions we can also ask ourselves, right? So this is the moment that Francis, during his time of conversion, this was about 1205, and we're very familiar with the San Damiano crucifix, right? And some Franciscan scholars say that during this time he was very confused. I don't know about you, but when you have your kids growing up, grandkids growing up, especially the teenage years, sometimes you want to connect with them, and then they don't want to connect with you. Like when they were 5 years old, their hands will always come up and like, oh, but the hold hands. Then you go to the shopping mall and then you hold hands together. Then when they're 15, you want to hold their hands, they'll be like, oh, very embarrassing. And then sometimes you want to talk to them, they're like, no. Even if they reply vocally, it would be a miracle because some are like, talk to my palm, or they just keep going to the room. Maybe it's during this time of transition, they're trying to figure out who they are, self-identity. Because half the time we keep asking, how are you, boy? If they don't know who they are, how are they going to answer? So what do? They always go to their cave, their man cave or whatever cave they are, just to hide. So Francis, during this time, after the experience at Spoleto. Spoleto was where Francis was going to war on the side of the Pope, fighting against the Roman Emperor. So from Assisi, he left, went to Spoleto, just a day's journey, and he heard the Lord in a dream saying, "Whom do you want to serve, the master or the servant?" And then he said, "Of course I want to serve the master." The voice said, "Then why are you following the servant? Go back to Assisi and you'll be told what to do." And he went back to Assisi. "But you'll be told what to do," this voice said. Did the voice appear again? He was waiting and waiting and waiting. And that's when he went to the caves, Carceri. He went to San Damiano, a broken down church. Because who goes to a broken down church? Nobody. So that he could have spent that quiet time with God alone, right? And then one day, the crucifix spoke. "Francis, restore the church, which you see is falling down." What is the church? Or rather, who is the church? So when he was rebuilding San Damiano, he was rebuilding San Pietro della Spina, the second church. He built St. Mary of the Angels, the third church. And then he realized, oh, it is not brick and mortar. This church is the living stone. That's why he stopped building the churches and went out and preached peace and all good. Pax et bonum or pace e bene. Because there was no peace in Italy at that time. Assisi was fighting Perugia, Bishop of Assisi fighting the Mayor of Assisi, the Holy Roman Emperor was fighting the Pope. Everyone was fighting. But why were they fighting? Because they saw the other not as a good. That's why he said peace and all good. Because when we can see the other as good, there can be connection, there can be relationship. That's why the leper, the wolf of Gubbio, the Sultan of Egypt, he could encounter every one of them because he saw the good in the leper, he saw the beauty in the wolf of Gubbio, he could see the mystery of the personhood of the Sultan of Egypt. That's why he can transcend boundaries and reach out. Just like how God is transcending God's boundary and to reach out to him. And they say that when he was looking at the crucifix, this Christ crucified and risen, because this is a Christ alive, right? Yeah. It's impressed in his heart because he keeps staring at it all the time. It was impressed, it got pressed into his heart that he's holding the crucified love in his heart, that at Mount Alvernia in 1224, 20 years later, it was expressed onto his flesh. So that God can see, because your heart is already so conformed with me. Conform means same form, conform. Since your heart is already conformed to me, now your body will also conform with me. That's why you will bear the same marks as I do. And this started by desiring and seeking God. Desire is a very big concept for us Franciscans. Because when Francis heard the call in St. Mary of the Angels, he said, "This is what I want, this is what I seek, this is what I desire with all my heart." It's all about the heart, the affectus, the affectivity. Not just the intellectus, but also the affectus. So that the head and heart are connected, integrated in harmony. So that our life is holistic. Head, heart, hands. I call it effectus. I'm sure there's no such Latin word, but I like to invent things anyway, right? In fact, when I was studying dogmatics in Antonianum, there was a course on desire, and there's also a course on beauty. I call it my beauty course, okay? It's not for your facial and everything, but it's a course on aesthetics. That means, why do we desire? We desire what is beautiful. And what is the most beautiful, most desirable? Francis says, totalis desiderabilis, that means the totally desirable is the crucified Christ. And Bonaventure takes it up again. And that's why we keep going to the crucified one. It is disfigured, but somehow our hearts cannot not look at it. There is something in the crucified one. Even St. Teresa of Avila, I'm a closet Carmelite, as you can see, so I read a lot of their works. Even Teresa of Avila, for 19 years as a nun, she was very ordinary. In fact, she was infatuated with this very handsome count that used to come to the convent, and she would love like secretly seeing him because he was very good looking, yes. And then when she had a conversion, how did she get her conversion? There was this statue, I think, of our Lord being scourged at the pillar in her, I think it was either the Incarnation Convent or the St. Joseph Convent. And she's been walking there all the time, but one day she took notice of this scourging statue, and she was enraptured, and that changed her. And many saints also had their conversion just by looking at the passion and the crucifixion of our Lord. Why would God do this for us? And Francis was similarly obsessed, not just with the crucifixion, but also the incarnation. All right, which will come next. Oh, but let me finish this. So, the prayer before the crucifix, at that time he was feeling a lot of darkness because he was very confused, right? And he says, enlighten, you are light, so you can bring light into my darkness. Yeah? Of my heart. So Francis was always talking about the heart. And give me what? Right faith, certain hope, and perfect love. Faith, hope, and love. The theological virtues. And some scholars, why did I bold certain? What does certain hope mean? If you're certain, you don't have to hope, right? So somehow, where did a certain hope come from? Looking at the crucifix. It is suffering and death, but it's a risen Christ. Because of the resurrection, we know that life will always triumph. Suffering is not the end of the story. Life is always the end of the story. Yeah, that's why it is certain hope. Because I'm still going through my sufferings and difficulties, but I'm certain that the Lord is with me and the Lord will save me. So maybe we'll take 3 minutes to sit with these questions, okay? So at this moment of your life, what darkness, confusion, fragility do you need God to enlighten, to hold, to embrace? And how intense is your level of desiring God? How much do you desire God? You can take any one of the questions, right? We'll take another 3 minutes of quiet, all right? Okay. Hope you had a good 3 minutes. Oh, since we're in Santuario San Antonio, let me talk about St. Anthony a little bit. He is one of my favorite. Singapore, Malaysia, our custody, he's our patron as well, St. Anthony. I always believe that God gives us a particular saint as our companion. And for me, I think it's St. Anthony. When I was first given my custos role, as you can see, I sing, I dance, which part of me shows that I can do legal and finance and leadership. I feel very, very out of it, right? So I struggled for 2 years initially when I was given this role in 2019. So this is my 7th year already. And I remember I was also formator when I was custos. And we're in a formation house. And I was sitting in the chapel feeling quite despondent and like, oh, kind of a thing. And I think the chapel was empty. I was just having my quiet time. And then all of a sudden, I felt this very strong masculine presence just next to me. I was like, who are you? And the reply was, I'm Anthony. I was like, oh, okay. Then no need for words already. So I always feel that Anthony is always very, very close to me. Yeah. And Anthony is also a contemplative. For those of you who have been to La Verna, if you go to the Stigmata Chapel, you know that there's a sacristy just before going in. There is a wooden door just opposite the sacristy. That is the entrance to the cave of Saint Bonaventure. Very likely where he wrote the mystical work, The Soul's Journey into God. But it's always closed and there's a rope. Now that I know that we can go in, so when the sister of the sacristy is attending Mass at the Basilica, I help myself to the rope and I open the door and I go in because she allowed us to go in before. So now I help myself. It is amazing to be in that same space where he wrote the mystical work. St. Anthony's cave is just below. So, so the sacristy is there, but there is this other door that walks down to the precipice where the devil wanted to throw Francis off. Just before you walk out to the precipice, there is a cave, and that's St. Anthony's cave. So St. Anthony also has a lot of quiet time in caves, especially in places that St. Francis went to. Even in Spoleto, I mentioned where he had the dream, just across the mountain, he has also got a cave there, right? Spoleto is very special because Spoleto has got a parchment where Francis wrote a letter to Brother Leo. So the original parchment is still there. But also Spoleto is the place where someone was canonized. Saint Anthony. And would you imagine, Francis died in 1226. He was canonized in 1228. 2 years by Pope Gregory IX, who was Francis's very good friend, also the cardinal protector of the Franciscan order when he was Bishop Hugolino of Ostia. This same Pope Gregory IX canonized Saint Anthony. Anthony died 13th of June 1231. When was he canonized? Within 1 year. 30th of May 1232. Faster than Saint Francis. San Antonio, I tell you, has something about him. You go to every church around the world, when you're in Italy, when in Germany, in Austria, and everywhere, there's always a statue of Saint Anthony. Saint Francis, sometimes you'll find him, sometimes you won't find him, but Anthony is always everywhere. In fact, some of the places I heard, the nuns, they pray to Saint Anthony. If Saint Anthony don't answer, what do? They turn him around and face the wall. Do you do that here? Not in Singapore. We heard this in some places like India. They make him face the wall. Some put him in the freezer, until he answers the prayer. Oh, yes, the things they do. Coming back to the story, I'm ADHD, so I talk about a lot of things. So St. Anthony has also a very contemplative heart. And that's why he also was very, very powerful in his works and in his words, right? Yeah. So if you go to Spoleto, When you enter the cathedral, also very beautiful, take the left, then you walk in the middle, you'll find, wow, such a big statue of St. Anthony. And then there is a little thing, a sign that says, St. Anthony was canonized in this cathedral in Spoleto by Pope Gregory IX in 1232, 30th of May, right? Then you walk, right to the end, you turn left, there's a very dark room. That's where the parchment of Francis's writing is. We only have 3 writings of St. Francis in his original handwriting. The divine praises that he wrote on Mount Alvernia, after he saw the vision, he told Brother Leo, I need to write out this prayer in my heart. And then he wrote it out. On the other side, he wrote the blessing of Brother Leo. And this parchment is kept in the Basilica of St. Francis in Assisi, right? Then the other parchment that they still have is this one in Spoleto. So you see this very dark chapel, this dark room, just go inside, turn right, because everything is dark. The Italians all want money. Don't record this. You have to go behind, put in, I think 50 cents or €1, and then the light will shine on the parchment. Yeah? That parchment is also very beautiful. I can spend another 2 hours talking on it, okay, but I won't, yes. Because it's about accompaniment. What it means to accompany another on the road. All right. From darkness, this time of conversion, Francis' heart was already changing. Remember, he said, it seemed bitter for me to see lepers. But then, what does he say in the Testament? The Lord led me among them. If you've read the Testament in its entirety, you'll find that the subject of the sentence, very often, subject means the doer, the actor, very often is the Lord. The Lord led me among them. The Lord gave me brothers. The Lord taught me what to do. It's always the Lord, the Lord, the Lord. He must increase, I must decrease. Just now, do you see that other prayer? The whole prayer is, Most High, Glorious God, enlighten the darkness of my heart. Give me right faith, certain hope, perfect charity, sense and knowledge, Lord, so that I may carry out your holy and true command. This is at the start of his life. Everything was help me, enlighten me, me. At the end of his life, the divine praises, remember I mentioned the divine praises that he wrote after he had the vision? What was the divine praises? You are power, you are beauty, you are refuge, you are meekness, you are humility. 33 names of God talking about you, no longer about me. Towards the end of his life, Francis was all about you. And some say that this you 33 times is learning from the Muslims. Remember, he went to visit the Muslims. The Muslims have the 99 names of Allah, and then from there he learned how to also praise God using the Muslim way. Yeah, so he wrote 33 names. Anyway, come back to this. So the Lord led me among them, and what was bitter was turned to sweetness. Isn't this conversion? Same person, the leper, but in the past was so bitter. Why? Because I was worried about me catching leprosy. But now the Lord led me among them, and everything was sweet. When I embraced the leper, somehow there was sweetness. What does this mean? Why, when I am hugging the disfigured one, I can find the true figure of me? I once gave a talk called Conformity in Deformity. How I'm conformed to God's love by embracing the deformed figure of the leper. Yeah? And some call this the cornerstone conversion experience. And those of you who have watched Inside Out, the movie, some say if you're able to embrace the leper without, that means outside of you, you are also able to embrace the leper within. if you can embrace what is broken and wounded outside of you, you can also hold space in your heart for yourself, the broken parts of ourselves. The Japanese, have you done kintsugi? Do you know the kintsugi? Have you seen kintsugi? Where they take broken pieces of porcelain and then they use gold to actually mend, to make it look even more beautiful. So the broken pieces are still broken, but they are together even made more beautiful, right? So God can always make that happen. All right, so the question for us is, what is your conversion experience? And have you embraced your leper within? Because we reject lepers. We are very afraid of our wounds. And we want to hide our wounds. But here, Francis is inviting us to embrace, not to condone. I think there's a difference between condoning bad actions, but this is embracing the broken parts of us. Because once we can face it, we can then let God transform it. Like in psychology, they say, name it, claim it, tame it. That's why when you go to Alcoholics Anonymous, what do they say? I am DERICK and I am an alcoholic. Okay, I'm not, okay? I'm in denial. But that's when we have to name, it's alcoholism, claim it, and then you can start taming it. Yeah? You can journey with it. Otherwise, we'll become very harsh to others because we're very harsh with ourselves. You know the episode of the Sultan? So at that time was the Crusades, the 5th Crusades. Why I'm saying all this is the mini deaths that need to happen. We all have to die to ourselves a little bit. In embracing the leper, we're dying to ourselves because we can die by catching leprosy, right? And by always going into wanting to embrace the cross, which is a dead man, of course we're talking about embracing death as well. Yeah? Take up your cross. By meeting the Sultan, you're going into enemy territory. It's also embracing a mini death, but transcending boundaries. So we talk about crossing boundaries unarmed, and it's with fraternal dialogue, not violence. Have you been to Holy Land already? I think some of you have been, but now it's impossible to go, right? It's so sad. Do you find that there are many brownies running around a lot of Franciscans running around? How come the brownies are all over the place? It's because of this episode. The Crusaders wanted to take back Holy Land because of the shrines, right? Especially the turn of the millennium, they believed that Jesus Christ would come again. And so we need to take back Jerusalem because Christ is going to come. I think there's a golden gate there, which is blocked by bricks. So I think the Jews said, we'll block the bricks to barricade it so that when Christ comes, he cannot go through the gate. As if when Christ comes from the heavenly chariot, he can breach the gates, right? Anyway, so they believe that Christ will come again. So they want to take back Holy Land. So every time when men want to take back things, sometimes men do it through violence, right? So in the minds of the Christians then, I can only take back the shrines when I have conquered the territory. You see that today, the land still doesn't belong to Christians, but the shrines belong to Christians. And the Franciscans have it. So it's through fraternal dialogue, not violence. Because the aim is what? To get back the shrines. So Francis met the Sultan, spent time with him, and some say that they were about the same age. So when they saw each other, they were like, hey brother, like that, you know. Because this Sultan was said to be a Sufi. Do you know the Sufi? You know the whirling dervishes, those that like they whirl? That's a branch of Sufism. Sufism is the mystical branch of Islam. Francis was also a contemplative. Do you think that a contemplative can recognize another contemplative, even though it's a different culture, different religion? when your heart desires grounding in the divine, I think hearts can recognize one another. So when these two men met, their hearts connected. And then, anyway, this is drawn by one of our parishioners, a young film director. So she drew this all on her iPad. You see this ivory horn? Initially, the Sultan wanted to bribe Francis to become Muslim by giving him a lot of gifts. Francis rejected everything, but accepted only one gift. What is that gift? The ivory horn. Why? Because the Sultan used the ivory horn to do what? To call his soldiers to prayer. Because it's connected with prayer, Francis accepted this gift. Where is the ivory horn now? In the Basilica of St. Francis in Assisi. So when you see that parchment of the letter to blessing of Brother Leo with the divine praises, the ivory horn is also there in that same space. It is still around. Huh? And Francis came back to Europe with many learnings, like what I mentioned, the divine praises, the 33 names of God. How many times do Muslims pray? 5 times. So when he was in the Muslim camp, he learned that the Muslims were very prayerful. When he came back, he